This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson. Hello, Nerdy Romantics. Today we are talking about romances with main characters that are in the LGBTQIA plus community. And we're doing this in honor of Pride Month. Yay, Pride Month! I want to first kind of start off because some of us may not know what all those acronyms mean. Or all those letters in this acronym. We may not know what all those mean, so don't feel bad. I will talk about them. I'll tell you what they mean. So first off, the L stands for lesbian, and a lesbian is a female who is attracted to other females sexually. G stands for gay, and gay can be an umbrella term, but here gay means a male who is attracted to other males sexually. The B is for bisexual, and that's a person who's attracted to both males and females. The T is for transgender. Transgender means that someone identifies with a gender that they may not be born as. And Q stands for either questioning or queer. I stands for intersex, and what that means is that's an umbrella term for people who are born with reproductive organs or anatomy or some chromosomes that can't be identified as male or female, according to GLAAD.org. A is for asexual. That means a person does not have a sexual attraction to other people. However, they may have a romantic attraction, but it may not be a sexual one. And the plus stands for any other sexual orientations or any other different gender identities that are not covered in those other different letters. Now, you may see this acronym, you may see different letters appear. You may only see part of these letters there. But if you ever have any questions about what any of these letters mean, you can always go to GLAAD.org. That's GLAAD.org. And today, on part one, we have Staci, our guest host Staci with us, and we have our guest host Marcie with us.
Hello.
Hi, ladies. I think Staci is sort of here with us.
I am here. Sorry. Hello. I just realized mute was still on.
It happens. It happens. This is what goes on. But we are going to talk, of course, we're going to recommend some romances with LGBTQIA plus main characters. And Marcie, what romance do you have for us?
My story is called Reading Between the Lines, and it is by, I have to look at that, Rachel Lacey.
All right. So, Marcie, tell us about, first of all, tell us what the book is about, and then talk a little bit about why the main characters are good representations in the LGBTQIA plus community. And then just tell us a little bit about why you like this story in general. Of course, all of our audience likes to know a little bit about the heat level, about some of the tropes that you may see, but definitely the heat level. So don't forget that. But yeah, tell us a little bit about this story.
Okay, so I'll try to tell you about it without giving away all of the twists and turns. So at the core of the story are two individuals, and this is a female to female relationship book, and one of the females is a bookstore owner of a store that she inherited from her mother, and she loves books. She loves to read, and she is one of those people that when people walk into her store, she can either look at them and tell what kind of book they're going to like, or she can, based on a couple of questions, have recommendations that they're going to love. And so she is in this bookstore that her mother has. Her mother's passed away, and she is really into this bookstore. On the flip side, you have a character who is super professional, super driven, working for the family business. They're into real estate, and she's from upper crust society. She's very, her family's affluent, of course. Her parents are more traditional, and she is, but both of these characters are, I'll say, open about their sexuality. I'll say that the second character's parents are aware. I wouldn't go as far as to say like super endorsing, but she has told her family and her friends that she does live as a lesbian female. So there's that. She has a sister who really embraces her and all the things about her. And so that's the core characters. And it's kind of hard to tell this story without a few spoilers. So,
oh boy,
because these two characters meet in two different ways. So the trope that is used here is the whole pen pal secret identity. And I say that because these two women have met each other in an online dating platform and have been corresponding with each other for a good amount of time, but have never met in person and have never seen each other.
Okay.
But they meet in person when the professional woman picks up her niece from school, and they happen by the bookstore, and her niece begs her to go inside because her niece loves to read. Now, at this point is when you find out the tension of the story, which is that the professional family that's in real estate has canceled the lease on the bookstore of the bookstore owner. Okay.
Oh no.
And she knows it when she goes into the store.
Oh boy.
But she doesn't say anything because she doesn't want things to be awkward. But she also doesn't realize that the woman that she met that she meets at the bookstore, who she's attracted to, is also the person that she's been sharing her hopes, dreams, or frustrations with in the online messages. So there's that. So that's kind of the core of the story. And I like it because it does have those things. It does have the tension that makes you wonder if they're going to get a happily ever after. It has a really good representation of the characters and their relationship to one another. It has just a really good story. It's told so well that sometimes, like, I could see in my mind, I could see the bookstore, and in my mind, I could kind of see them. You find out some other things about the professional character that I won't disclose because I don't want to give away everything. That also becomes central to the story. In terms of heat, though, I would say somewhere between sweet and sweet heat. It's not super racy, but they do have some scenes where they're intimate. So yeah, I would say Sweet Heat is probably the level that I would give it.
Okay.
And it was a really cute story. Like honestly, I could see it turning into like a made for TV movie on some network, because it had that kind of vibe to it.
Oh,
It had that kind of story to it, with the twists and turns that you would expect to see on the screen. So I do see this as something like you could see it one day on Hallmark or on Lifetime, like in one of those. So it's a really good story. So again, read between the lines, Rachel Lacey. It's a really good read, and I really enjoyed. And I will say that I am not something who, before we started this journey of happily ever afters, had actually read a LGBTQ romance before, of any kind. So this was my first foray into the genre, and I actually think I picked a pretty good one. I really enjoyed the story. It was one that I didn't mind reading to be part of this, and it was definitely something that I would consider reading again, because it was really good. It reminds me sort of like Jane Green-ish, especially some of her early stuff, without the British tint to it, but in that well-written kind of way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As you were describing it, it kind of made me think like Hallmarky. Like when you said Hallmark, I was like, yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of what that sounds like, and it sounds really cute.
It was, and I don't want it to. When I say Hallmarky though, I don't want it to say that it's so syrupy sweet. Like I said, there is tension, there is conflict.
Yes,
there are questions on whether or not they're going to get to an HEA. So it's definitely not just as straightforward as it sounds. And I have purposefully left out one of the biggest sources of some of the tension in the novel, just so that I don't give all the spoilers. So I do think that it could very well be one of those, but it's not just going to be like saccharine sweet. And I appreciated that.
All right. Sounds good. Is this one a book one or anything in a series, or is it just a standalone? Do you remember?
It appears to be a standalone.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's go now to Staci. Staci, what book do you have for us today?
I have Work For It by, of course, the wonderful Talia Hibbert. So,
of course.
And I have to agree with Marcie. I don't really read a lot of LGBTQ plus novels, except for back in the day I read, the whole Evelyn Harris series,
right?
Invisible Life. But that was such a long time ago.
Yeah.
But until we've gone on this journey of just trying to find different books and different genres and things like that, what we're doing here, I never really thought to go back and look for something specifically in that realm. But this book, Work For It, it's a Talia Hibbert book, so they have issues.
Right.
But it was one of those books that I was surprised at, it was short, so there's not going to be a lot for me to say without me not trying to tell the story. But it's one of those, city guy, and I would say country boy, but I wouldn't necessarily call him a country boy, but he's just a small town person and a city person. And of course, they both have some sort of issues. If we've read any Talia Hibbert books, there's usually some sort of, they might be on the spectrum, they may have anxiety, but there's always something. And in this case, they do have that. You have the character Olu, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but he also goes by Kynes, which I'm also not sure if I'm saying that right. Okay. But he's the main. He's one of the main characters, and he's actually it's a standalone, but it actually references another book of hers, and is actually the brother of one of the characters from another book.
Unfortunately, Staci's recommendation got cut off due to some technical difficulties. Looks like everything didn't convert here. And I hate that it happened because it was a really good discussion. But we do have a part 2 of our LGBTQIA Who Gets an HEA recommendations episode. And that one, I recommend a novel by Lynn Lustig, and our guest host Jen recommends 2 novels, actually 2 series. So keep listening. We have with us Jen today, and Jen is going to talk about a couple of romances with main characters that are in the LGBTQIA plus community. And I am going to talk about one as well that Jen recommended to me. Jen, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited to talk about these books.
All right. So what we're going to do is we'll go over, of course, book title and book author. We're going to talk a little bit about what the book is about, why we like these main characters, especially as representations of the LGBTQ community. And we're also going to just talk a little bit about why we like the books in general. Why are we recommending these romances? And in that, we'll talk about who the romances are really for. Like if you like sweet or steamy. So we're going to talk a little bit about heat level. We'll talk about tropes that we like in these particular romances. All that kind of good stuff. So, Jen, what's the first romance that you have for us today?
I am going to be talking about a book from the Cloaked series by Elle Beauregard. The Cloak series is a 3-book series that has magical elements and lots of great characters. So the first book in the series is The Cloak's Shadow, and the second book is called The Medium's Possession, and the third book is The Witch's Complement. I'm going to talk about The Witch's Complement. The books that I'm going to talk about, though, just so you know, if you go to Elle's website, she has short novellas that you can also get that kind of tell the in-between stories that go along with these 3 books.
Okay.
So they're really great. And so let's get into it. So the Witch's Complement is a book with 2 female witches as the central main characters. And they are characters that I immediately fell in love with. Wren, we actually meet Wren in the first book. And I'll get into that in just a second. But what has been going on in this series by the time we get to book 3 is that there has been a shadow, which is sort of a demon-like character that has been terrorizing our couple from the first book and our couple from the second book. We have a medium. We have 2 mediums that are in this series, and we have a character that is known as a cloak. Now, a cloak in the series is somebody who doesn't see sort of the spirit world at all. And when she is near somebody like a medium being somebody who can see a lot of things about the spirit world, that cloak sort of covers the medium as well. And that's a really sort of interesting way that the 2 main characters get together in the first book. He's a medium, and he is followed around by a lot of ghosts, and the ghosts can talk to him. But obviously, if you're sitting in a coffee shop, you can't just be chit-chatting with the ghosts that are around you. It's not cool. So he has to try to ignore them and sort of carry on with his life. But there's the situation where he always has lots of voices in his head. In that book is when we meet Wren, and things happen to Wren. There's, I'm just going to warn you right now. And, but then by the time we get to book 3, we are ready for Wren to get her happily ever after. She is a really fantastic character because she is a witch that she was raised by her grandmother, and that side of the family does not have any magical ability at all. She lost her mother when she was very young, and has had to kind of grow up with these powers, and knowing that she has this connection to the to magic without having a really good guidance system about how to figure out how to use it. And she has made her way in the world by connecting with other folks that that understand magic, by making some connections and sort of choosing to live life in her own best way. So she is, and I love that about this character, because she has not allowed the opinions of others and her family to distract her from who she is. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do.
Yes.
We first meet her in the first book when we find out that she and Xander, who's the female main character of the first book, that they went to college together and they were friends in college. And one of the first conversations that the two of them have when they meet back up is that Ren tells her that that she has a girlfriend. And there's a great moment. Obviously, that can be very stressful for a lot of people to come out to those around them. But that was a really great moment. She's like, "Oh, tell me about her," right? Because she'd been saying, "Oh, you have somebody in your life. Tell me about him." And so she makes that connection that she is actually dating a woman. Now, by the time we see her in, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but
okay,
her girlfriend, things happen. Now,
okay.
when we get to the witch's compliment, by the time we get to the witch's compliment, we're a few years into the story arc that's going on, and Ren is in a good place in a lot of ways, but she's been traveling the country in an RV and has been supporting herself by doing magical consulting for folks. Anything from staging a house to doing tarot readings to that type of thing. And so she has this connection with life. And there's other characters that are in the series, one of whom works as a tattoo artist. And he ends up with this intern in his tattoo shop. And we find out that our intern is also connected to the magical world.
Cool.
But in contrast to Ren, Abby has grown up with her mom and her dad both know all about magic. They have an entire community that she has grown up around, that she has been with, that she has a deep understanding of not only the magic that she's personally connected to and that she's personally able to tap into, but also just sort of an awareness that there's lots of other things that are out there, lots of other people that are out there, and powers. And she's really able to help Ren to sort of make some connections and to be able to understand this, the big bad. We have this shadow and where the shadow is coming from and what the shadow really means to the world. Because when we see the shadow in the first couple of books, this is an entity that is kind of creating problems for the main characters. But because they don't have a clear understanding of what this entity is, they don't know what how big of a threat that it is to the world as a whole. And we get a lot of that information from Abby. Abby is just, what's really interesting is that I think I mentioned that Ren has this connection to life. She has a connection to plants and to growth and that type of thing. And Abby's connection is to death, not in a way that means like dark magic, and not in a way that means like evil, but she has this connection to death where it's very peaceful for her, and that she doesn't see ghosts per se, but people that have passed on are able to contact her. And so the two of them meet when Ren goes into the tattoo shop, and they have this immediate connection. And Ren is sort of dealing with the fact that she hasn't felt a connection for anybody since her last girlfriend, and isn't quite sure that she's ready or what it is that she needs to do. And Abby is sort of understanding of that, and still is willing to just kind of like meet her where she is, and in a way that is so I don't know, it's just the way that I would want somebody to connect with me if I was in the same place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That feeling like she knows that Ren is ready for this, but not really ready for it. And just that moment of real indecision about where she is sort of on her own personal journey towards, finding our people. And finding our people can be a really big, challenging thing. And what's great about the way that Abby approaches her is that Abby finds her fascinating, and Abby feels immediately attracted to her, but doesn't want to push her if she's not ready to do something. She's like, look, let's just get coffee if that's cool. And the amount of their relationship on that level is just so adorable, that the way that they connect. So
yeah.
So what's great too is that because she has this connection with Abby, as we get towards the end, she's able to tap into deeper levels of her magic. She's able to tap into some of the things that Abby knows. And let me just tell you, if you think that this is just like a sweet little, connection between two people, it is. But let me tell you, we start adding in the spice here. Don't even worry about it. If you're somebody that likes a spicy raid, we're going to cover that, even though we do have two characters that on the surface seem like they're just kind of sweet and delicate or what have you. No, absolutely not. We're going to get some spice. We're going to get some serious heat. We are going to get, when they are ready to sort of take that leap into, maybe this is more of a relationship and not a friendship. Right. Well, obviously still a friendship, but when Ren is ready to kind of take that step and be like, yeah, this is a person that I am attracted to. This is a person that I want to be with, and there needs to be naked times. We're in good shape with Elle. Elle does a really, really great job with her sex scenes. So
that's good.
Do not worry about that. But then what's fantastic is that as we get to the end, these two characters that have so much like inner strength to them and such a connection to each other and to their magic, they get to shine when we come to the end and the big battle with the big bad. And oh my God, they are badass. They get to be badass as well. And that
so awesome
is what I really love about this book in particular, and this series as a whole. All of the women in the series are strong in their own way. They're not, strong like Navy SEAL type strength or FBI agent kind of strength, which a lot of times, sometimes when we're talking about strong female characters, that's what we're talking about. Instead, what we have is women that all have their own inner life, they have their own inner strengths, and they have their own sort of way that they look at the world. And all of them are different. All of them are interesting and people that you would want to spend more time with, right? So, and then when we get to the end of the Witch's Compliment, I love seeing good people put on their badass clothes and go to work. And and we definitely get that here. Do not mess with these two witches. So,
wow. So, question for you, is it a contemporary?
Oh, romance? Yes. This is a contemporary. The series takes place in two different cities. The series starts in New Orleans, and it, by the time it ends, we're in Seattle. There's it is contemporary.
Oh, New Orleans, of course, with all the magic.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So as far as any tropes, did any tropes come out that you just like you really loved or want to point out?
We have sort of an opposites attract again, and that's related to their magic. So Ren is somebody whose magic is based in life, and Abby's magic is based in death. I'm not sure I'm explaining that exactly correctly, but you'll get the idea once you get into the book. So we have a little bit of an opposites attract. We also, and one of the things I love about books that have a little bit of magic in them is the way that magic is sort of described sometimes as an energy that is running within a person. And so it's really about their own inner energies and being attracted to each other. And that attraction becomes like a magnet, right? The same way that a negative and a positive on magnets are the ones that like bring you together. That's what we see in this book as well. There's some really sweet moments. There's I think we're going to focus on that trope for this one.
So you're saying this is book 3? How many are in the series?
3 books.
Oh, okay. So this is that's why they're fighting the big bad.
Yeah. So this is the 3rd book in the series. And then if you subscribe to Elle Beauregard's newsletter, then you can get there's 2 novellas that kind of happen in between. It's not required to read the novellas. You can definitely follow the story without reading the novellas if you're not a newsletter person. But yeah, definitely recommend getting the novellas though.
Okay, cool. And that's what you were talking about before with the novellas. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, looks like we are going to be in the nerdy romantic kind of area, I should say, in this one, because that one is I would say fantasy if it's witches and
exactly. Yeah, it sort of falls in that paranormal romance world.
Yeah.
Maybe urban fantasy type world. And yeah.
Okay. And so you were also mentioning, because the book that I'm going to talk about is by Lynn Lustig, and you were telling me that Lynn and Elle have a series that they're doing together. So talk a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh, so fun. So Lynn and Elle are friends, and together they wrote a series called Dispelled Lineage, Dispelled, like, casting spells. And lineage, because we're talking about a family here. So cool. These are steamy contemporary romances. I will say it's a little bit of an alternate universe. So there's because it feels like a contemporary romance, but there's this element of space travel, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So in this one, there's a loose homage to their favorite animated movies. And by loose, just to let you know, they are queer and they are very hot. This series is a bit hotter, I'm going to say, or more on the spicy side than Elle's The Cloak series.
Okay.
Although that's kind of you can kind of decide for yourself if that's true, because I don't know that the individual sex scenes are so much hotter or so much less hot between the 2 series, but I believe Dispelled Lineage has more sexy scenes per book. So you kind of take that as you will.
Yeah. So, I would count that as steamier.
So what's great about this series as a whole is that they're the father of the siblings. We have 2 girls and a boy that make up the main part of the book. Is that early in his life, he was in space for space reasons, and he came in contact with a being from another planet. That being came to Earth. They were able to spend some time together, and then they were separated. And it has been the mission of his life to try and reconnect with this being from another planet. And as a result of that search, there's been sort of this pain inside of him, and unfortunately that pain sort of came out as being not a great father in a lot of ways. So we don't know a whole lot about him and his story until the very end. This is a series that has 4 books in it. But today I want to talk about book 2 in this series. One of the things I really like about the whole series is sort of the queer representation. And that is something that's important to both Lynn and Elle, and the Lynn Lustig and Elle Beauregard, in the way that they write.
Yep.
A lot of their books have that sort of queer representation and awareness. And I feel like they both are able to bring a lot of reality and a lot of, they don't tend to depend on some of the more common tropes that you see associated with them, where there's,
That's good.
it's a big coming out story, which are great stories to read, but there's lots of other things that might happen in a person's life. And
Right,
so what I
exactly.
really appreciate about them is their ability to tell, these big multi-layered stories, while also happen to feature queer characters, although their queerness is not necessarily the central element of the story. And I love seeing that not only in their books, but across the romance genre. I feel like we're seeing more and more and more of that, where we are getting a lot more more types of stories.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. So in book one, oh no, we're going to talk about book two. Book two is called Worth Melting For. And so we have a little bit of an Elsa from Frozen sort of feel to the main character. So our main character is Lana, and because of their dad's relationship with this being, there is something that changes within dad and his kids, who are not, he didn't have children with the being, I'll put it that way, okay? But he was sort of left with the impression with I don't know how to explain it correctly, but because of his relationship with that being, his kids all have powers, and their powers are not quite like superheroes, but they are very difficult to explain to like the world, because they're not like superheroes. Okay. So Lana's gift is that she knows the probability if what somebody says is true. So while you are speaking to her, she sort of takes a lot of information around what it is that's happening, and sees these percentages about whether this person is 100% telling the truth, or most likely telling the truth. So she has all these sort of things in her head that she can see. And so the way that this book starts out is that today Lana's husband will leave her, and she knows this before he does, thanks to her ability to see probability of the scenarios that she can imagine. And so because her husband leaves, he is awful when he leaves, just FYI. He freezes their accounts and just creates a bit of a nightmare for Lana. And so even though Lana and her father do not get along, he is her only hope for a bit, until she is able to work out the whole situation and finish the divorce with her husband. So that's a whole thing. And his insistence is that she is going to be head counsel for the company, because of this ability, but also because she is just incredibly intelligent woman. She is a lawyer, and so he's going to make her be head counsel for the company. In book one, he sort of participated in some industrial espionage, and and is now being
sued. Oh my gosh.
So yeah. So
wow.
That's a fun one. You got to go read that one too, because that's a whole thing. Anyway, so because the company that he was spying on was our hero from book one, and hero from book one ends up with this guy's daughter. So we not only have espionage going on, but we have definitely daddy does not approve of that daughter's hookup with her boss. That's a whole thing. But Lana in book two, Lana has to argue the case and, figure out what's going to happen here. And she is introduced to Sean. And Sean is just as sharp-tongued as Lana can be, but she has a much brighter, sunshiny kind of personality. So we have that grumpy sunshine type of an interaction that's happening.
Yep.
We also have, I wouldn't say that they are enemies to lovers, but they are on opposite sides of a legal issue. So there's a whole thing that might happen here with, because this is my dad's company and that's your company, and they are suing each other. So we kind of have to figure out what that means in terms of what can happen here. And then Lana, like I said, she starts off the book in the process of divorcing her husband, and now she finds herself attracted to a woman, and not only figuring out what's going on with Sean and this case, but Sean is the first person that Lana meets that she cannot see probabilities like she can with everybody else. So she is completely blind where this person is concerned.
Yes.
She doesn't, everybody else, she can figure them out like super easily because of this ability to always know, or at least have a very good sign about what people's intentions are, whether they're lying or not, those kinds of things. And so this person, she has to get to know in the same way that the rest of us have to get to know people. Is this person for real? And one of the things that she really struggles with is that Sean is so charming and is also, very family oriented, and just seems like a good, wonderful cinnamon roll of a person. And Lana doesn't know what to do with that.
Oh my goodness.
And watching her try to figure it out is so much fun, because she is so used to being in, first of all, her husband, like I said, was not a good person, and really, sort of created all these problems for her. So she has been living in this situation of distrust for a long time. She doesn't have a great relationship with her father. She does have friends. I mean, this is not a weird thing for her. She understands that there's lots of people in the world that are good people. But to be thrown into a situation where she needs to meet with Sean on a regular basis, they have to work out a lot of the details of the case, and just finds her to be not only attracted to her, but in a situation where she really just doesn't understand where this person is coming from. And I love to see somebody who is in the whole rest of their lives a complete badass, and then it's sort of like flustered in in the face of somebody that they're attracted to.
I love it when they're thrown off kilter just a little bit. Yeah. So fun.
So, in the movie, Elsa doesn't get a romantic interest in Frozen, but Lana does, and it's hot.
I love that. That is cool, especially considering, Elsa didn't get her love interest, which has always bothered me about that movie.
Yeah.
That's really
There's a lot of people that relate to Elsa in various ways.
Yeah.
For folks that a lot of folks see her as potentially a queer icon. She's been interpreted that way by a lot of different people. There's lots of folks that view Elsa as somebody maybe who was suffering from depression, and because people try to help, and she sort of locked herself away and made herself sort of not available to folks, and was just sort of in a situation where she was didn't have the guidance maybe that she needed at the time, and so there's lots of people that can relate to Elsa's story. And I think that and I really appreciate what Elle and Len decided to do with that story, and the way that they sort of interpreted it into Lana's story, of being someone who needed to kind of figure some things out, didn't have a lot of great parental guidance going for her, and had kind of shut herself off. And in some ways, literally, in the book, when her husband leaves and takes all of the furniture out of the house. Okay. all the
Yikes.
furniture, except she has like her office, which has like her desk, you know, sort of her home office space. All the other furniture in the house is taken. And so she sort of like locked herself into this big, empty, cold house. And I'm like, so she has an ice castle? I'm just loving this about
Wow.
her, right? And
Yeah.
then Sean is so warm and wonderful to be around, that that's why it throws her. She just doesn't know what to do with herself.
I think that sounds cool.
Mhm.
You know, not to make a pun or anything there. That pun unintended.
That's all right. That's all right. We knew it was coming.
But you know, as you're saying this, you know, you kind of get hints of fan fiction, but it's so much more than that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it
Oh,
just
yeah.
sounds like it's just inspired. It's not even fan fiction. They took that and
No.
ran with it.
Yeah,
I
they
love
really
that.
ran with it. Everything is just sort of like lightly inspired by.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. I can see that. And since they are so good together, we've got to talk about Lynn and I'm gonna I'm just gonna go ahead and put the rest of the books that you've said on my TBR because Jen actually recommended Lynn Lustig's Gilded Lies to me.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I don't have a lot, but there I will say there's like a gap as far as reading books with LGBTQIA main characters. And for me, and we talked a little bit about this in the earlier portion of this episode with Marcie and Staci. We talked about, you know, in the late 90s there was Elin Harris, and you know, but as far as romance, he's not really considered romance. He's more contemporary literary fiction or contemporary fiction, more like contemporary commercial fiction, I could probably say. And so as far as actual romance goes, you know, there's, other than Sierra Simone, who does, like I said before, she does alternate lifestyles very well. She's just amazing. But other than Sierra Simone, I haven't read widely in with romances that have had LGBTQIA plus main characters, and so I, when Jen recommended this one to me, I was like, okay, all right, we'll try it, you know, why not? But Gilded Lies by Lynn Lustig is book 1 in the Frequency series, and Jen, I'll have to say I loved this book.
I knew you would. I knew you would. I love it.
I was like, I am just like, and it's off the, it's very nerdy and romantic, right? It's what this whole podcast is all about. It's kind of where nerdy and romantic kind of meet. And yes, we've had a few things where that happens, but I just thought, wow, this is really where this meets. I mean, it has all of my little romance drama that I need, you know, all the little good nuggets of romance that I need. But it also has, as you can probably tell from the series that they did together that Jen talked about, and from Elle series, but it has a sci-fi fantasy bent. It's really more sci-fi.
Yeah.
And
I've heard Lynn call it X-Men with queer representation.
That is exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, as soon as I started reading this, and I was thinking, okay, these people have powers. Yes, I'm gonna get into the description. I promise everybody. But I have to geek out a little bit. As soon as I started reading, I was thinking, this sounds a lot like X-Men.
Mm.
And everybody knows how much I love X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, Jen really got this one for me. I'm like,
I got you. I knew.
I'm like, wow, Jen, if you could just see eye to eye, come on. This is great. This is totally great. But so let me describe it a little bit. Basically, you've got one main character, and that's John, right?
Yeah.
And John is a bisexual, and right now he's with his male bodyguard. And they're in a relationship, but their relationship as the book starts is one that's very down low, because John is a superstar. He is Hollywood or Broadway. He's Broadway. He moves to Broadway, but he's Hollywood as well.
Exactly.
So he's so their relationship is kind of, on the down low, because he's a superstar in that he's a sex symbol, as well. And his ex is a girl named Leisha, right?
Yes.
The other thing that I did not realize, actually, before I go on, the other thing that I didn't realize, and I will say I did this in an audio book. So I got that John's bodyguard, and for some reason I'm losing his name right now. But we'll remember Emerson.
Emerson, yeah.
Yes, Emerson. For some reason, well, I kind of got that he might be Black. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't even realize, and I was wondering why. I was wondering about the names, but I didn't realize that some of the other characters are also racially, ethnically different, right?
Correct.
Maybe, okay, like South Asian or
yes.
So okay. All right. So I didn't realize that while I was reading the audiobook, but I noticed that you said that they were different racially, which is so cool. I just think this whole thing is cool. So what you're finding out is that as you're reading, and I don't want to give too much away, but just to kind of set it up. So there has been this event. I don't want to, it's not like an extinction level event, but it was a major event, world event, where something happened, and they don't really get too much into this book. I'm wondering if they get into it in the other books.
Yes. Later on, there's a lot more explanation about the shift and kind of what happened and what it means.
Oh, okay.
World, yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, in this one, you're just kind of introduced that there's this event that happened. And after the event happened, they started to notice that children were growing up with certain abnormal abilities. So this is where the whole X-Men thing comes into play. So John's ability is to kind of project good feelings out, or to project his aura out onto others.
Yes.
And
so not just good feelings.
Yeah, okay.
Not just good feelings.
Good feelings.
There's some good feelings coming out there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, real good feelings. Which is part of the reason why we think he's a sex symbol, right? Because he does that projecting, right? And so Emerson is one of those who totally reminds me of Rogue. I just totally got the Rogue vibe, because he kind of sucks the life energy out
of
people. which is exactly what Rogue does if she touches somebody. So from X-Men. So when Lynn's describing Emerson, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally X-Men. And if it wasn't X-Men, I don't know what is. And I'm just gonna say it is, even if it's not meant to be. But I am totally in love with that. It is, because it just seems that way. And two,
that's okay. You just make it your own. You just make it your own. Totally fine.
Exactly. This is my interpretation of it. And to top it off, right? So there's, the whole conflict or the whole crisis or whatever is that there is another abnormal. They actually call them something else, but I don't want to spoil all that. But there's another a person with special abilities, and that person is actually locked up because they're doing experiments on this person. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they're doing experiments on this person, why they've kind of been experimenting, is that they want to try to cure the people with abilities. And that so much reminded me of X-Men. I think it's the third one. I think it's X-Men 3. Mm-hmm. Where there was a little boy that they had on, was it on Alcatraz? Did they have him on Alcatraz? They had him in a facility, and I think they made the facility on Alcatraz.
I think so. I think that's right. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's been decades since that movie came out. It feels like So yeah, and he actually, every time a mutant came in contact with him, they would lose their abilities. And it just made me think so much of that movie, But anyway, so you kind of go through on one level here, you have I wouldn't say budding. It seems like they've been in a really, they're in a really good relationship. John and Emerson are in a really good relationship.
Yeah.
But they're at a point where Emerson wants to take it to another level. And John is like, I ain't ready to out myself to the public. I don't care. Everybody else in my world knows who I am. But the public, they can kick rocks. So, or I'm not ready to talk about it to the public.
Right.
So they're kind of at a little bit of an impasse. And then because there's this crisis of, they can sense, actually, they can kind of sense, or they're having some hallucinations or some kind of dreams or something.
Yeah.
And that's why the ex-girlfriend comes into play, because her abnormal ability is that she can project any feelings, and she can actually alter feelings on people. Like alter feelings so much that, she can physically make people do things because their emotional state is driving them to do stuff.
I know. Isn't that wild?
That is.
We never really think about how much our emotions cause us to behave in a certain way, or cause us to act in a certain way, and how, regardless of how, sort of logical you think that you're making decisions, that there's always an emotional element to it. And
always.
I think that that's such an interesting power to explore.
Right. Exactly. It totally is. And it kind of gives you just a little bit of Star Trek for me, only because there's always this, especially with Spock, and continuing on with just about every other Vulcan, but especially with Spock, there's always this kind of war between emotion and logic, right? And then in Star Trek TNG, there's Data, who has no emotions, but there are certain episodes where it's like, now did he have emotions in this episode?
Mhm.
There's certain episodes where he does get emotions, but I'm actually thinking about an episode I just saw again for the millionth time yesterday, where he is like compelled to do something, and he's trying to logically compute, killing this person. But something happens, and it's like, did he have emotions? And they're actually like looking. But getting back to this book, it's so amazing how much emotion can actually drive you, and you not even realize how emotion is driving you, and you think that it's logic, or it's other things, but it's not. It's emotion that can actually drive you to do certain things, and it's amazing to see that. But the other thing that this kind of dynamic shows, because of course, Leisha is, she compels people emotionally, but she also, as far as a moral center,
Mhm.
is lacking a little bit in that area. She's not amoral. That's not it.
Exactly.
But she's got kind of a loose moral center, and it's actually the dynamic in this story is she's got kind of a loose moral center. Emerson is very, very much black and white when it comes to that. It's like there's good and there's bad, and you're doing some bad stuff here.
Right.
He's very staunch morally. And then there's John, who's just influenced in the middle. Poor thing. Oh Lord. Oh gosh, he's cute.
He has these big
He's cute and
personalities
he's
around
influenced.
him. Yeah.
Right, exactly. He's cute and he's influenced, and then not to mention, he does have like is Prisha his manager?
No, Prisha
What is she?
Prisha, you're going to learn so much more about Prisha in the next book, but Prisha and he are starring in a Broadway show together.
Okay.
And they are also dating. And
right, they
that's
are
the public relationship that he has.
Okay, so she's his work wife. That's what he said.
No.
Actually.
Wait, hold on, because I think you missed something, because it's kind of subtle in that book, about what the relationship is with Prisha and John. Prisha and John are dating. They absolutely are. He spends the night at her house. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, they're totally dating. Yeah, they're totally dating. Yeah,
they're totally having sex with each other.
Yeah, I totally got that part. Oh,
she is the
I guess
co-star.
When I say work wife is that was probably a little bit.
She knows about Emerson. Emerson knows about her as well.
Right, exactly.
So this is not a cheating situation. If you don't like cheating books, this is not a cheating book.
No, it's definitely not a cheating book. They have a kind of a open relationship right now, which is another reason kind of why I think Emerson struggles a little bit, because I think he kind of, well, maybe in this book, it just seems like he just wanted a close relationship. There's nothing else I can kind of say about that. He's okay with John and Prisha, but it's just like,
he wants to be public.
Yeah.
He wants people to know, he wants to be able, he's his bodyguard. So it's normal for them to be seen together, but he wants to hold hands. He wants to go on a date and do all those, boyfriend things. And that is something that John's not willing to do. He's not willing to give him that public side of the relationship. So, and that's what's causing the problems between them, is that he doesn't get to be public. And I can, obviously I can definitely see, if you were with somebody that didn't want to take you on dates and wanted to hide you away, you're like, that's not great for me. I don't like the way this feels.
Exactly, exactly. It's like this is your, especially when you are in public with somebody else, and that
Mhm.
somebody else is also in a relationship with you. It's not like a, I'm being his beard, you
Yeah.
know.
So it's just,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
rough. I do feel for Emerson. I really do.
yeah.
Yeah. And because he has to decide how he wants to live his life. Does he want to live his life in the shadows? And he doesn't. Nobody
Right.
does.
Exactly, exactly. And it's not like, it's not like either of them are really in the closet. It's more John is in the closet publicly, right?
Yeah, which is
It's
a hard
like,
thing
which
for
is,
most people to.
and that's also kind of the whole, it's like, I want to be with you and you don't have a problem with that. And, it's like, but we can't be together in public because you have this public persona that has a problem with it, kind of
Mhm.
thing. Yeah. It's a wild, kind of dynamic going on. Oh, but what I was saying about Prisha, actually, what I was kind of trying to say about Prisha was she's kind of like his his being John, she's kind of like John's practical voice. Like you got Leisha, who's just like, I'm just gonna go off the deep end and do what I want to do, and I don't even know why you trying to hang out with me in the first place. We are broken up, and all this kind of stuff. But they're so attracted to each other. Like there's this obvious like soulmate vibe thing going on there for whatever. And then he's got Emerson, who's like, listen, you've got to do this way, kind of thing. And then you've just got Prisha, who's like, listen, this is what it is, this is how things are going. She's that kind of practical, kind of calm it down, John, kind of person. like get your crap together, John. She's like that, the practical person. So you got the practical person, you got the moral person, you've got the emotional person that just goes off the hinges kind of thing, and all these people around John, and poor John. And that's why I say John is kind of like the main character here. It's like all these people kind of orbiting him to a certain extent, but it's fun, and it's definitely a romance. Don't get me wrong, we got the romance vibe, which I talked about. But what I really, and I guess this is more my nerdy side just coming out, and maybe my nerdy side is starved for air. I really love the nerdy side of this.
Yeah, Lynn does nerdy really well. Yeah.
I mean, it's so good. It's like, oh my gosh, X-Men. I'm just, and it's been so long since I've really it's been so long since I've really seen an X-Men movie. I don't go back and watch the X-Men cartoon or anything, for kicks. But it's just been so long since I've had an X-Men fix, and this was like an X-Men fix for me. And I was just geeking out about it. But I found myself as I was reading, I found myself, yes, I was rooting for John and Emerson to get together, of course. But even more so, I was rooting for them to save this other person with special abilities from being experimented on, because you're finding, and this is very early in the story, so I'm not spoiling anything, but you find that she does not want to be there. At first she was there, but then she realizes she does not want to be there, and you find that very early on. So I came out kind of like, she's got to be saved. We've got to save her. And then the other part of me, of course, is you know, wanting the people in their world to accept the fact that they have abnormal abilities, because like I said, this is very much like X-Men in that there's X-Men and then there are humans and they don't get along. And you know, so you have that dynamic here. You very much have that dynamic here. And so it's also, you know, a whole wanting or needing tolerance and wanting acceptance in this kind of world so they can work this out kind of thing. Otherwise, people like Leisha are just going to be people like Leisha. I see Leisha, but my mind is thinking Magneto. Even though she's not manipulating metal, but it's the same kind of vibe that, you know, Leisha is like, listen, you know, there's us and then there's them, you know. And I don't really give a flip about them because they don't care about me, you know. So you know, you get that whole dynamic, but it's not X-Men. It's just for people who are X-Men fans, you could totally see this vibe going. You could totally see this dynamic. But it's, you know, like the other series the series that they did together, it's a totally different animal. It's a totally different story, you know. It's just X-Men kind of inspired. It's not even fan fiction here. It's very much X-Men.
No, these are very
inspired.
much not fan fictions.
Yeah, this is a whole different story.
By, you can see it's the similar kind of vibe. But not fan fiction.
Right. Which is like totally up my alley. I'm not this is gonna sound stupid. I'm not a fan of fan fiction. But inspired by stories that are their own story that I can appreciate in their own right, but I can also geek out by seeing the little Easter eggs. That I'm all about that. And this one goes right up here with that. Now, as far as heat level, I'm going to say with the heat level, I'm going to say sweet steamy. And the reason why I'm saying sweet steamy is because I only remember one scene in this book that was not fade to black. All the other scenes that are like love scenes, they're fade to black, except for the one at the very end. And this is definitely HEA for John and Emerson. I don't think I'm spoiling that because it pretty much says it really in here. It says it in the book description pretty much. And you're going to get that vibe anyway. But you do get that kind of a little bit of a love triangle. And as much as I've said, I feel like I've said over the past few weeks, you know, there's not a lot of books that are love triangles that, you know, kind of stand out. And, you know, people are kind of like, yay, you know. I don't think people are doing that trope that much anymore. You know, this kind of gives me a love triangle kind of vibe a little bit. And it's only because Leisha has such a pull. But you are not rooting for John and Leisha. You realize John and Leisha are definitely past. And you'll know that from the very beginning. You'll know that as soon as you meet them. So
I can see what you're saying about that. Away. Yeah. It's not nobody's hoping for John and Leisha to get together, but there's definitely some feelings that are there. But that's not triangles are real difficult to sell because you really have to create a situation where both of the options, one, it has to be a situation where the person can only end up with one person. So there's that.
Right.
And then two, you have to create characters that are believable as both being right for that person who has a choice to make.
Exactly.
And then you also have to present both relationships in a way that doesn't feel like they are betraying the other person, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's a difficult balance to create for a lot of authors. I do have one. If you want me to tell you, I do have one that I think she did a really good job. It skews a little younger. It is it's not steamy, but it's a book called Tell Me How This Ends. And I thought that what's her name? Victoria De La O, I believe is the name of the author. And I felt like she did a really good job where you really were not sure you really weren't sure who was going to end up together at the end. Yeah, so I thought she did a good job. Those characters are like mid-20s-ish range. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so but yeah, really good book.
Okay, cool.
And it's a trilogy. That also is a trilogy, by the way.
Awesome. All right, so we have even more book recommendations here.
So many more. There you go. That book's been out for a while.
I will say about this book that I forgot to say earlier is, yeah, this is definitely a contemporary romance, but I think like the other book that you mentioned, the other series that you mentioned, it's more so like an alternate Earth, because this shift thing happened. So it's not our Earth as we know it, but it's very much contemporary, a contemporary romance. And like I said, I feel like it's sweet, steamy, only because we get one open door scene that I can remember. Again, I listened to this in audiobook, so I may be missing something there, Jan. I don't know if you remember, but that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting here from this. But all around, this is a good book. I think there are 2 others in the series. Yes,
there are 2 others that have been published. There will be a total of 4.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, so, and that 4th book is due out soon. I don't. Let me see if I can pull up what her published date is, but it's due out soon. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. So, and like Jen was saying, and I've noticed on Lynn Lustig's website that's kind of her thing. She writes bisexual and queer characters. That's kind of it's part of her tagline or something about it on her website, which I think is cool. But it's funny because the one thing, even though we're saying that John is not out to the public as in his public persona, the fact that John is bisexual really to me it's not really consequential to the story necessarily. It's just that his persona to the public of dating his bodyguard, who happens to be a man, is the bigger deal. But just people's sexuality in this book, it's not a I hate to call it struggle book, but it's really not a struggle book. It's these people are living their lives. They are who they are. And yes, they have, kind of conflict kind of things that surround their sexuality, but it's not about their sexuality. And that's another thing that I like about this is, I want to see the representation happen because it needs to be shown. People, do live as LGBTQIA plus. So we need to have this representation, but we don't need to focus on it because nobody's focusing on me being a heterosexual, right? So we don't need to focus on that and talk about that. I mean, this is not that book. And to me, romance novels, they can show us things without having to say, this is how it is. To me, that's for a nonfiction book. If my struggles with whatever, that's your memoir. That's not a romance novel, in my opinion.
There's so many other things that are happening in this book. Yeah. So
it's so many.
Like I said before, what I really appreciate about the way that they write is that there's representation, but there's also they also are very clear that folks have entire lives outside of their outside of their preferences. And lives are complicated as they are outside of the person that you might be falling in love with, or might be growing closer to. So there's so many other elements to somebody's story than the one thing, and that people are layered and interesting and complicated, and the world is a complicated place to live. So which is a really great thing. So this is a very in Gilded Lies, it's a very complicated world, and let me tell you, that world only gets more complicated the farther you get into the series.
Oh my, I'm looking forward to it. So many things are happening.
So many things are happening. Yeah, the last book, I know it's coming out here. Oh gosh, it's definitely coming out this year.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know what the actual release date is, but it's definitely coming out in 2022. And if it's not out by October, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I bet it comes out before October.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. So we will be on the lookout for it. Jen, thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking about books that have LGBTQIA plus representation, and for, of course, recommending Gilded Lies to me.
I got you. Anytime,
hon. So
this was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate it. You have a wonderful afternoon.
All right. And so the next episode in our series, we are going to talk about the Netflix runaway hit You, which is from the book series by Caroline Kepnes. So stick with us for the next episode. Make sure you are subscribed. And oh, by the way, we have a new website, everybody. NerdyRomanticspodcast.com is our new website, and it does have all the show notes for all of the episodes on that website. So go check it out. So that's it for this episode. Please subscribe to Nerdy Romantics Podcast wherever you get your podcast to be notified anytime a new episode drops. And if you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. The links are in my show notes, along with a lot of other links for books and other items that we talked about on our show. And if you really like what you're hearing, click the donate button while you're there to support us. Thank you for listening.